All right, coffee lovers, get ready because today we're going deep, deep into the world of coffee beans.
Deep into those beans.
Specifically, um, the superstar of the coffee world, Arabica. Now, it's everywhere, right, Arabica? I mean, every cafe, every kitchen. But how much do we actually know about this little bean that goes into, goes into our cup?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, isn't it? How something so, I don't know, ubiquitous, so common can still be kind of a mystery. Like even the name coffee bean. I mean, is it really a bean?
Yeah, when you put it that way, it's like calling, I don't know, a sunflower seed a bean, right? Like, what's the story there?
So those beans are actually technically seeds. Seeds from a fruit, a coffee cherry.
Okay, a coffee cherry. So it's a fruit.
Yeah, think of it like this. You wouldn't call an almond a bean, right? Or a sunflower seed a bean.
Right.
Even though they kind of have that same shape, that size.
Okay, so we've got these coffee cherries, these tiny little fruits, and inside are the seeds. Wait, does that mean that pea berries, those small round beans, those are like the single child cherries?
You got it. Pea berries, they only have one seed inside instead of the usual two.
Huh.
Yeah, they're kind of rare. I mean, they only make up a small percentage of the harvest.
Oh.
But some people, some real coffee lovers, think pea berries have a more intense flavor, concentrated.
Okay, so that's interesting. So most of the time, we're dealing with the two-seed cherries.
Right.
And when it comes to those, the big name, the king maybe, is Arabica, right? So what's so special about Arabica?
Well, the full name's Coffee Arabica, if you want to get technical. It's the dominant force in coffee. Like 60% of all the coffee produced globally is Arabica.
Wow.
Yeah, and most of those specialty coffees you see, the ones with the fancy names like
Oh, yeah.
Ethiopian Yirgacheffe, those are usually Arabica beans.
Okay, so it's like the gourmet option.
You could say that.
All right, so what makes it different from, say, Robusta? That's another name I hear all the time.
Yeah. So Arabica, it's known for being smoother, more refined,
Okay.
And it has less caffeine than Robusta.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that actually makes it less bitter. It gives it a more delicate flavor.
So it's not just about the strength, it's about the nuance, the flavor.
Right, exactly. Imagine like a complex wine, subtle fruit notes, floral hints. That's Arabica.
No, that sounds good. So where do these magic beans, where do these Arabica beans actually come from?
Originally, well, picture this. A lush Ethiopian forest. That's where Arabica comes from.
Ethiopia.
Uh-huh. The wild coffee plant, it's a tall, slender tree. I mean, they can get pretty big, like 30 feet tall, even more.
Wow, that's a big coffee plant.
Yeah, covered in these glossy, dark green leaves. And they have these beautiful white flowers, really fragrant.
Right. White flowers. I never really pictured that. What do they smell like?
Oh, they're sweet, like jasmine, Imagine walking through a coffee forest when they're in bloom. It's pretty amazing. Really takes over your senses.
That sounds incredible. But I'm guessing those perfect forest conditions, they're not that easy to replicate on a farm, right?
You're right. Arabica can be a little picky when it comes to growing conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, it needs higher altitudes, consistent rainfall, mild temperatures. Like everything has to be just right.
Like Goldilocks.
Yeah. So
And isn't that where the whole bean belt thing comes in?
Yeah.
Like, I see that on coffee bags all the time.
The bean belt, yeah. It's also called the coffee belt.
Okay.
That's the area around the equator where the climate is just right for growing coffee.
Oh, okay. So that's why you see most coffee-producing countries in those kind of similar latitudes.
Exactly. It's all about geography.
Geography. All comes back to geography.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we can't forget about caffeine, right? I mean, that's the reason a lot of us are reaching for that cup in the morning.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So Arabica, it has less caffeine than Robusta, but it still packs a punch, right?
Absolutely. Still has that kick. But here's something interesting. Coffee grown higher up at higher altitudes,
Yeah.
it actually has more caffeine.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So if you want like a supercharged brew, you got to go for those high altitude beans.
That's the trick.
Okay, so we've got the beans growing, but we're not at the brewing stage just yet. Like there's that whole journey from cherry to roasted bean.
Right. So after they harvest the coffee cherries, they have to process them, get rid of the outer layers and expose the bean inside.
Okay.
Two main ways to do that: wet processing and dry processing.
I've heard of those, but I've never really understood what makes them different.
So with wet processing, they get rid of the pulp of the cherry first,
Okay.
and then the beans are fermented in water.
Fermented.
Yeah, to get rid of this sticky layer called mucilage.
Okay.
Then they wash and dry the beans. And this method, it usually gives you a cleaner, brighter flavor.
So it's like a spa treatment for the beans.
Right. Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
what about dry processing?
That's more traditional. They dry the whole cherry in the sun. It takes longer, but you often get these more earthy, fruity flavors.
So many factors influencing the flavor before we even get to roasting.
It's a long journey.
What's actually inside a green coffee bean, like at this stage?
So inside that green bean, you've got carbs, proteins, lipids, and of course those antioxidants that everyone's always talking about.
Antioxidants. Can't go wrong with those. Speaking of green coffee, have you ever tried green coffee extract? I see that everywhere these days.
Yeah, it's pretty popular, right? It's made from unroasted beans.
Whoa, okay.
And it tastes a lot milder. Kind of grassy, actually, compared to roasted coffee.
I bet it's quite a shock if you're used to, that rich roasted flavor.
It's a whole different world.
So you're saying that roasting is what really brings out those classic coffee aromas and flavors.
Absolutely. It transforms the bean completely.
Like alchemy. Well, I think we're ready to explore that roasting process a little deeper
Let's dive
in
in.
the next part of our deep dive.
It's going to be good.
Stick around.
Yeah, it really is amazing. How much change happens when you roast a bean. It's like we're taking this little green bean and we're unlocking all this flavor, all this aroma. It's pretty cool.
I know. But to be honest, I find the whole roasting thing a little intimidating, Like light, medium, dark roast. What does it all mean?
Well, think of it as like a journey through heat, right?
Right.
Roasting is all about how much heat you apply to those green coffee beans. You got to control the temperature, the time. It's all about getting the results you want.
So it's more than just like tossing them in a pan, right?
Oh, yeah, much more.
What's actually going on inside the bean when it's roasting?
So as the bean heats up, a lot of stuff happens. It starts to lose moisture, it changes color, and this is the important part. It starts to have all these chemical reactions. Hundreds of different compounds are being created.
So that's where the magic happens. Like all the aromas, all the flavors we love about coffee, that's all from those chemical reactions.
Exactly. And a good roaster, they're like an artist. They know how to work with the beans, how to bring out their best.
Okay, so it's science and art. I like that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the different roasts, the different levels. What's happening with a light roast?
Light roasts, they're all about subtlety. The beans are roasted for a shorter time at lower temperatures. And that preserves the acidity. It lets the delicate flavors shine through.
So you're talking about those bright acidic coffees, the ones with those fruity floral notes, right?
Right. Light roasts are great for showcasing those unique characteristics, especially with single origin beans.
Like that Ethiopian Yirgacheffe we talked about earlier.
Exactly. That delicate floral aroma, the citrusy notes, that's all brought out with a light roast.
Okay, so what happens when we turn up the heat a bit? What's a medium roast all about?
Medium roasts, they're all about balance. They roast the beans a little longer so they're a bit darker and the flavor's more pronounced.
So we lose some of that acidity,
Yeah.
but we gain more depth, more complexity, right?
Yeah, exactly. You get a more rounded flavor with medium roasts. You've got the sweetness, the acidity, the body. It's all there.
You mentioned body. What does that mean when we're talking about coffee?
Body, that's how the coffee feels in your mouth. It's that weight, that thickness you feel when you sip it. Imagine the difference between skim milk and whole milk. One's light, the other's got more substance.
Okay, I get it. So if we keep going, we end up at the dark side, the dark roasts. What's happening there?
Dark roasts, they're like taking the beans on a wild ride. You're roasting them for the longest time at the highest temperatures. They end up almost black, and the flavor is super bold, super intense.
So that's where we get those strong, smoky coffees, right?
Right. Dark roasts often have these bittersweet, smoky flavors, notes of dark chocolate, nuts, even spices sometimes.
I've always wondered about caffeine in dark roasts. I've heard they have less caffeine, even though they taste stronger. Is that true?
That's a common misconception. Caffeine doesn't really break down during roasting. The thing is, some dark roasts use beans that naturally have less caffeine, like Robusta beans. And dark roasts, they lose more moisture, so they're less dense. You might use a little less coffee when you brew, which means slightly less caffeine.
Huh. So it's not as simple as dark roast equals less caffeine?
Nope, not at all. In the end, it comes down to what you like, right? Some people love the bold intensity of a dark roast. Others prefer that bright acidity of a light roast. It's all about your own taste.
It's like choosing your own coffee adventure.
Ah.
Okay, so we've explored the roasting spectrum, but what happens next? We can't just turn those roasted beans into a cup of coffee magically, can we?
Nope. One more step before we brew. grinding. And just like with roasting, how you grind your coffee makes a big difference in how it tastes in the end.
I know we have to grind the beans, but I always thought it was just about making them smaller. What's so important about the grind size?
Grinding, it's about increasing the surface area of the coffee. The more surface area, the better those flavors can be extracted when you brew it. Different brewing methods need different grind sizes to get the best results.
It's like finding the right key for the right lock.
Exactly.
So tell me, what's the secret to this grind size mystery?
It really is like a key fitting into a lock.
Yeah.
The grind size has to match the brewing method.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So walk me through this grind size mystery. Like, what are we looking for with, say, a fine grind?
Okay, so a fine grind, it's almost like powder, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what you need for espresso. Because the water's being forced through so quickly under pressure, you need those tiny coffee grounds to get all that flavor out.
So bigger grounds, longer brew time.
Exactly. If you're using a French press, you want a coarse grind.
Okay.
It's like coarse salt.
Got it.
Those bigger grounds, they need that longer steeping time to release their flavor.
Interesting. So it's all about surface area, right? Like the smaller the grind, the more surface area, the faster the extraction.
Exactly. You're getting it.
All right, so we've got our beans. They're roasted, they're ground. We're finally ready to brew. I'm excited. Where do we start?
Let's start with a classic. Drip coffee.
Drip coffee.
The old reliable.
The workhorse of the coffee world. I mean, most people start their day with drip coffee, right?
For sure. But, I've always wondered what's actually happening in that coffee maker. It seems so simple.
Well, it is pretty straightforward. You've got hot water. It slowly drips over the coffee grounds. And gravity pulls the brewed coffee through a filter right into your carafe.
Okay, so it's all about gravity.
Gravity and good timing.
Any secrets to getting the most out of my drip coffee maker? I want to make sure I'm doing it right.
Oh, there are a few tricks. The water temperature is super important. You want it between 195 and 205 degrees Fahrenheit.
That's specific. Yeah, it makes a difference. Too hot, you'll scorch the coffee, make it bitter. Too cold, you won't get all the good flavors out.
So no boiling water straight from the kettle.
Let it cool down a little bit first. And when you pour the water, make sure you wet all the grounds evenly, for a nice even extraction.
Good to know. Also, I've seen all these different types of filters, like paper, metal, cloth. Do those really matter?
They do, actually. Paper filters, they're the most popular.
Yeah.
They absorb some of the oils in the coffee, so you end up with a cleaner, brighter cup.
Okay.
Metal filters, they let more of those oils through, so you get a richer, bolder brew.
Interesting.
And then cloth filters, they're kind of in between.
So many choices.
It's all about finding what you like, right?
Okay, what about pour-over coffee? I hear people raving about pour-over all the time.
Pour-over. It's definitely having a moment.
It is.
Pour-over methods like a Chemex or a Hario V60, they give you more control over the brewing. You're pouring the hot water over the grounds yourself, slowly, in circles, to make sure everything's extracted evenly.
So it's a little more hands-on, a little more skill involved.
Yeah, you could say that.
But it's worth it.
For a lot of coffee lovers, it is. It's a slower, more mindful way to brew. And you can experiment with different pouring techniques to find what you like.
I like that. A little coffee meditation. Okay, let's talk about a method I really like. The French press. It's so simple. But does it make a different kind of coffee than, say, drip or pour over?
Absolutely. The French press, it's all about steeping. You put those coarsely ground beans in hot water, let them sit for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then you push down that mesh plunger to filter out the grounds.
It's almost like making tea.
Kind of, yeah. Since the coffee steeps for longer, you usually get a fuller-bodied brew, richer texture, and a bit more sediment.
That explains why I always find those little coffee grounds at the bottom of my cup.
It's all part of the experience. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's all personal preference.
Okay, now I'm ready for something strong. Let's talk espresso. It's the base for so many coffee drinks. What makes it so different from other brewing methods?
Espresso, it's all about pressure. You force hot water through those finely ground beans at high pressure, and you get this concentrated shot of coffee.
Super intense.
Oh, yeah. And don't forget the crema.
The crema, that creamy layer on top?
Yeah, that's created by the high pressure. It emulsifies the oils in the coffee, creates all those tiny bubbles.
That's so good. So last but not least, cold brew. Everybody's drinking it these days. What's the deal with cold brew?
Cold brew is all about slow and steady. You use cold water or room temperature water, and you let the coffee steep for a long time, like 12 to 24 hours.
So it's like the ultimate slow coffee method. Why go to all that trouble?
Because it's worth it. Cold brew, it's smoother, less acidic, naturally sweet. Plus, it's easier on your stomach if you're sensitive to acidity.
Perfect for a hot day. Wow, we've covered a lot of ground today. Drip coffee, pour over, French press, espresso, cold brew. It's amazing how many different ways there are to make a cup of coffee.
It really is. I mean, it's all about experimentation, finding what you like.
That's the fun of it. Well, I'm feeling inspired to try some new brewing methods, maybe explore some new roasts and origins. This deep dive has definitely opened my eyes to the world of coffee.
I hope so. There's so much to discover. I mean, next time you brew a cup, just think about the journey those beans have taken to get to your cup.
Well said. And maybe our deep dive will inspire some of you to try something new. Happy brewing, everyone!